G'day everyone, and welcome to another Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 video. This time I'm taking a look at INIBuilds, or INIBuilds, however you choose to say it, latest release YBBN Brisbane. So look, let me just say straight away that I've had a good look around the scenery, and to be honest, I'm not actually that impressed. The impression that I've got is this has been rushed. To my eye, it's only half complete, and I'll show you why I think that is as we go through the video. There seems to be like a whole lot of detail missing. Generally, INIBuilds has been recognised as a development house that produces really high quality stuff, and up to now I've had absolutely no issues with INIBuild scenery. It's always been of a very high quality. Let me say that a lot of this scenery looks awesome, looks gorgeous. But we also need to remember this is a premium product, and it's sold as a premium product, and you pay for it as a premium product, right? And just let me emphasize the point here that I've purchased this myself. I don't accept free scenery or anything like that. I'm just a common consumer like everyone else, and so I buy for what I've got in my simulator. So I purchased this today. It was originally meant to be released last weekend. That didn't happen. There was no reason provided by INIBuilds. It was basically radio silence from them until there was a little announcement today that finally it had been released. Looking at it, I can kind of understand why it wasn't released on the weekend, because my personal view is they were working really hard to try and get it to a standard where it could be released. My, I guess, comment at this stage is I'm personally not convinced that it is, but obviously that's just my personal view. There's lots about it with fantastic details, some really nice stuff. And it's kind of what I expect from INIBuilds, and just sort of, you know, the areas we're looking at the moment. You can see this is all classic INIBuilds. The quality is excellent. You can see where the time has been spent in terms of the development process. Lovely modeling, really nice texturing, all of those sorts of things. There are a few sort of little things, you know, but a lot of that's got more to do with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 than probably the scenery. However, there are areas where things just don't stack up. So here's potentially a little example. The sun's at the back of the hotel, and yet the sun is clearly streaming through the windows. Now that's a small thing, but it's unusual for them to have missed that. Something like a good example of, I guess, not my concern, but disappointment with the scenery is this area. Now this is a really good example, because here you can see basically a polygon's been put down to cover the ground surfacing, and you can see it doesn't fully cover everything off, and it doesn't always, and that's fine. But if I bring up Google Earth and look at this area in Google Earth, you can see there's actually a lot of ground detail. Now normally I would expect that to be included in a scenery, but as you can see in this case it's not. Now I find that surprising, because they've put plenty of effort and time into the buildings, but the ground polygons, well, they just don't have the detail, and I'm surprised by that, because I've got a lot of INIBuilds scenery products, and typically that stuff is included. Here's some other examples as well, where there is no ground polygon at all. Now that could just be a design decision. Hey, we're not going to bother with that. That's well off your side, and fair enough. They've decided to put some stuff in and not others. That could very well be a design decision, and that's perfectly okay if that's what they want to do. Here's another example of some really nice modeling. It's a great sign, great message as well. Men, check. But then we move over here, and there's areas where there's a whole lot of trees missing. I would expect that to have been, you know, trees placed here. Now, this could be an issue with my system, it could be an issue with my scenery, for all I know. But this is a little bit unusual. And doesn't look right to me. Same with all these car parks over here. So we've got the sunshade, which is fine. Quite a lot of detail inside here, so that's quite nice. But we've got no cars. Once again, that's unusual. I would have expected something. I understand they're big car parks. I don't expect every car park to be filled. But just to have a 2D texture, sorry, it doesn't quite add up for me. Another example of really well modelled area. So Coles Express, just stunning. Look at that, beautiful. Great levels of detail here. Absolutely fantastic. Filled with trees. You can see they've placed trees by hand. Looks awesome. So why wasn't it done over here? Moving over towards the international terminal. Another car park that's empty. So this is the ramp at the international terminal. Looks nice. Nice levels of detail. Good to see aircraft. I'm not going to talk about Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's AI because it's this is an Australian airport. You'd expect to see some kind of Qantas aircraft, but I haven't seen a single Qantas livery yet, but that's not the point. So one of the things that the scenery is promoted, there's another area I would have expected some kind of, you'd think there would be vehicles in that area. Once again, it could just be a design decision, or my personal view is they just haven't got to that. Vehicles here, which is awesome. Some nice texturing here, but very barren. No vehicles in the car parks. Once again, that's not a big deal. Some developers do. They've clearly chosen not to. That's fine. So it's promoted as being fully modelled interior. So let's go on inside and have a look. And there it is. Looks fantastic. All the kiosks, people, not animated. I thought normally they have animated people, but that's all right. I've got plenty of people milling around, which is great. It's a nice level of detail here. Some of the textures are a little bit blurry. Okay, it's a surprise, but okay, it's not a big deal. And let's go upstairs. Oh, there we go. And it's pretty quiet up here. So once again, I'm wondering, is that a design decision? Seems unusual. If I think to some of the other INIBuild sceneries, I would expect this area to be sort of, quite immersive in terms of people and so forth. But look, the quality of the modelling is lovely. It's nice and crisp. I haven't tried it at night, but it looks great. And you can go through to the departure areas, and that looks great as well. And you can go down into this area. Now we're back to having people, which is fantastic. So, it all looks pretty awesome. Pretty awesome indeed. But in terms of being fully modelled, that's, I'm afraid, where it ends, because there's no other interiors anywhere else in the airport that I could find. And I'm open to being corrected. But I'm yet to find any other interiors. So when they say it's fully modelled, the international terminal main building is fully modelled. I don't think anything else is modelled internally. There it is, Brisbane International Airport, looking fantastic. I've had the airport running for about an hour, so the amount of traffic coming and going has certainly increased. I'm still looking forward to seeing a Qantas aircraft. So once again, nice level of details, a few cars there, but bugger all anywhere else. So this is another example of a ground polygon that they've put down, which is fine. That's the whole point. You can, get to the levels of details that you want as a developer, and add that or don't add that, whatever you want to do. It's got some nice detail on top of it. However, if I can just bring up Google Earth again. So I think there's quite a bit of ground, features and textures and line markings and things like that that are missing. So they've got the line over here, even though it is pretty horrifically low res. It does get better the closer you get to it, so it looks fantastic up close, which is great, but at a height it gets blurry really quickly. Once again, that could just be my system or my settings. But kind of here's an example of it's quite average, it's not a smooth curve. I don't know, to me this just doesn't look finished. That's my takeaway for it. It's simply not finished. It's a bit of extra detail that they haven't had time to put into it, and that's fine, but I don't recall seeing anything communicated to say that was the case. Or if this is the final scenery, then so be it. Kangaroo. It's the first kangaroo I've seen. Excellent. I'm not in camera mode. I've got one of those things I need to do. Earlier, there were a heap of camels at this end. They seem to have disappeared. It's good to see Skippy. So let's move over to the other side of the airport. Okay, so this is one of the Qantas hangars. So once again, you can see ground polygons have been put down. They've got textures on them, but there's really not a lot on those textures. One thing that I found interesting is that you can actually see the ground photos, if you like, showing through. So there's a couple of cars there, there's some ground markings there, and we can see those on Google Earth as well. It's good to see they've got car parks here, but once again, this is actually kind of average, really. I find this quite disappointing. Now, if this was a freeware product or, a $20 product, yeah, that's probably fine, but it's not. This is premium. All right, let's have a look at Google Earth. Now, once again, I don't expect every detail to be included, but as you can see, there's a bit of stuff there, and it would be nice to see that. It's peeking through the ground texture, but it doesn't actually exist in the scenery. And quite honestly, I would expect that. Remembering this is an FS or a Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 only product, so I don't know if it is going to be released in 2020. I've seen nothing to suggest it will be. Another giveaway for me, as well as the empty hangars, it is just bland, nothing at all. Once again, that could be a design choice. To me, it talks to a scenery that isn't finished. Remembering this is just my personal opinion. Other people may say, no, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. This is perfectly fine. And that's great. This is the beauty of things. We can all have opinions. So there's the ground in Google Earth. There's obviously lots of detail and stuff like that because it's a photo. This is what's in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So not a lot of detail, not a lot of ground texture detail, and I'm still sitting here thinking, I've paid quite a lot for the scenery, and I'm just feeling like a little bit shortchanged. Here's another one. This is just another example. This is an example of really poor ground polygons. So you can see here, you can see through stuff there. I don't know what this dark thing is meant to be. So yeah, it's that is just really poor in my view, really poor. At least get it to line up. That to me once again shows that potentially it's been rushed. Because the guys in general are pretty talented. And here's what it looks like in Google Earth. So there's quite a lot of detail there on the ramp and in the park areas, and this is what we've got. And this one's not even close in terms of trees and car parks and things like that. Near these water tanks, it just doesn't exist. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what the hell. Let me be very clear that I'm not expecting every detail to be included, but INIBuilds have established a reputation. They very quickly became a preeminent builders of scenery, and they started to show up some of the long established names, from the P3D, FSX, and also the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 days. So I was really excited for this scenery, really disappointed it wasn't released on the weekend, but hey, shit happens. But here we are. What we've got that has been released, as I said, just doesn't seem to be complete. So that's a good example of, look at that level of detail there. And yet there's no texturing on the AC units. So I hadn't seen that before. So, that to me is an example where they haven't actually finished it. None of these things have been textured by the look of it. No. So it looks rushed. Just looks rushed to me, which is, as I said, disappointing. A lot of the stuff here doesn't have textures actually. We got no textures on those either. So yeah, as I said, this looks a bit rushed, which is a real shame. Given that this is their first supposedly dedicated Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 scenery popping in, looks good. To get it like this, as I said, I'm disappointed. I'm not impressed. I think it's a missed opportunity. I think there were high expectations. Given all the problems that we've had with Microsoft Flight Simulator's 2024's launch, when you're going to release a scenery, and the first one, see, this is a good example of the awesome stuff they do. There's a viewing area here. It's great to see. It's really nice. Little takeaway van. Awesome. See, this is the dilemma, because you've got some absolutely fantastic examples of great stuff being done, and got some examples of mediocrity at best, which I just think is a real shame. When I looked at this area, first of all, I wasn't quite sure. To me, it looks like it's missing a bump map. It's quite a glossy finish and gives you the impression that there's bumps, but I just don't think there is. See, there it looks quite good. See, there it does look like it, but you get closer and they disappear. Anyway, it's a small point. So yeah, this is how it is at this stage. Lots of potential. There are other areas that they've included that I'm not looking at today that look really good. Like the city and the port over there, they've modelled most of that, which is fantastic. There's an area that I haven't actually looked at earlier. So this is the fire department training area. Yeah, that looks quite good. Slight misalignment of scenery parts, but that's small. Yeah, this is quite cool. Looks good. But once again, it's just the ground textures. They're just, I don't know, saying amateurish is probably a little bit too harsh, but it's not what I expect from INIBuilds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Now, here are the camels. Now, I don't know how realistic this is. Are there actually camels in Brisbane? This has probably got nothing whatsoever to do with INIBuilds, or INIBuilds, sorry, however you choose to announce it. But we've got camels on one of the closed runways or taxiways. And it looks like we've got a few of them around the place. Yeah, there's some more over there by the look. Oh, kangaroos. Kangaroos I'd understand. That kind of makes sense. But I'm not convinced. Just look at the level of detail that Microsoft has included here. It's just extraordinary. So kangaroos I get. Camels, not so much. But as I said, it's bound to have nothing to do with the scenery itself. It's just Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 doing its thing. So yeah, so I just wanted to give you an early look, give you my impressions so far. As I said, I am disappointed. My views are this is only half completed. I really hope they do choose to add a bit more detail in those areas. Some people say, well, who really gives a shit? Because we fly, we spend the time in the cockpit. I'm not going to do, we don't go out and go around the airport and look at any of this stuff. And I'd say, yep, fair enough. Knock your socks off. It will do that, absolutely. But as I said, this isn't what I really expect from INIBuilds. What I said about interiors not completed. So yeah, so that's where it's at. I'll leave it there, and hopefully this video was of some use to you in terms of your decision-making process. Look, overall, I think it's probably perfectly fine for people who are just looking to stay in their cockpit and aren't really interested in looking around. But people like me who do tend to look around and like to explore the scenery, I just don't think it's quite where I would expect it to be, given what I've paid for it and given it's promoted as a premium product. But as I said, I don't expect every little detail to be there. That's something else I found as well. Yes, these strange little artifacts. I don't know where the hell they've come from, but they tend to hang around the tower, so I wonder if they're just misplaced. It's alright. Once again, it's another small detail. The level of detail in the control tower is what you'd expect. It looks awesome. Great views. I don't expect any of this stuff to be detailed. So yeah, there we go. That's INIBuilds, however you pronounce it. YBBN Brisbane. As I said, I hope this was of some help. Okay, happy flying, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.